Hello, welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly program where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. The thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, send questions or comments to our Twitter page at Mason Roundtable or on the Facebook event page for episode, 143, God on the Petition. Tonight, I'm still John Ruart, past master of the Patriot Lodge, number 1957 in Fairfax, Virginia. And I'll hand it off to, Jason Richards for his introduction.
Wow, switching it up tonight, John.
Everything's new tonight.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. It's great to be here with you. My name is Jason Richards. For the last time, Senior Warden of Acacia Lodge, number 16 in good old Clifton, Virginia.
Well, what's going to happen next time?
That's a good question. It all depends on Thursday when we have elections. That said, the programs are already printed and done. So, hooray, progressive lines, right?
Good stuff. Jason, Robert Johnson.
Hello, Robert Johnson from the Winds Came You podcast, the current sitting secretary of Waukegan Lodge number 78 in Waukegan, Illinois. We're, do some Masonic stuff. Thanks.
Do stuff and things.
That's right.
Juan Sepulveda.
Hello, everybody. Juan Sepulveda here, host of the Winding Stairs Freemasonry podcast and a member of Orange Blossom Lodge number 80 in sunny Kissimmee, Florida.
And special guest for tonight is Mike the Intern. That's Mike Hambrecht out of Ohio. So tell us your lodge affiliation and anything else special about you.
Mike Hambrecht, and I am the Junior Steward and Lodge Education Officers elect of Village Lodge of Grand Lodge of Ohio.
Wow. And newly raised.
Oh, yeah.
The summer.
Ish.
April. Yeah, back in April.
Newly raised-ish.
Yeah.
And jumped in with both feet.
And we abuse him on a regular basis.
That's what interns are for, isn't it?
Yes.
Good stuff. Hey, well, we finally got rock and rolling. In case you haven't noticed, it's a little bit different tonight, but we're going to press on anyway. And as you know, a recurring message from our sponsor, Masonic Revival, Edgar Alejandro of MasonicRevival.com. He does some great work. And if you like lapel pins, like are back behind me, well, used to be back behind Jason, then you too can get some awesome lapel pins and much more at MasonicRevival.com. And if you use the promo code TMR, that's TMR, you can get free shipping. Who doesn't like free shipping? Nobody. That's who. And remember, the holidays are coming, so make sure you get something for your elected officers. And Jason, do you want to show off anything that you may have from Masonic Revival?
Oh, sure. And I figure it's pretty much a done deal now. So I've actually got an unboxing video of these babies that's going to go live sometime Saturday or Sunday. But Edgar and I worked together to create a tie for the officers of Acacia Lodge, and got them in back last week, and they are absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to share them with you real quick. These are the Acacia tie, calling them number 16 in parentheses, the Acacia. And you take a look at the craftsmanship there. It is absolutely gorgeous. I couldn't be happier. And so all of my officers are going to get one of these. I, of course, got a bow tie for myself, but we're going to sell them as a fundraiser for Acacia Lodge throughout the year until Edgar eventually launches them on his own website. So if you want one of these, let me know. They'll probably run about $40, and I can at least get an order in at some point before the end of the year and get them out to anyone who wants one. So thank you, Edgar. These are absolutely incredible.
Sweet. All right, that's enough for introductions and sponsorship. So why don't you roll right in, Jason, to our only Masonic news item for tonight, which is your upcoming installation.
Yeah, well, we'll see if Google Live ends up working between now and Saturday. So going to be installed as Worshipful Master of Acacia Lodge number 16 in good old Clifton, Virginia on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning. So we are going to have all the technology ready and raring to go, and we will see if Google Live actually works. If push comes to shove, we may just have to do what we're doing tonight, which is pre-record it and put it up later. But we will keep you all informed, and we'll let you know what we're doing and how we're doing it. It's going to be at Clifton Presbyterian Church in their multi-purpose room. So if you're watching this show and you're interested in coming in, like from DC or wherever you'd like to come in from, it's right across the street from Acacia Lodge. There's an event invite up on the Masonic Roundtable and also my personal page. So go and check that out. It's got the location and the address. And I'll also have some directions kind of plastered on the front of the lodge just in case people show up to the lodge. So would love to see you there, either virtually or otherwise. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a good event.
Rock on. Okay. So also this week, we do not have a Masonic Monday question on Tuesday, nor do we have Nick. So we miss you, Nick.
On Tuesday.
See, that's why we didn't have a question. Just to deny him the pleasure. Okay, let's get right into this week's topic, which is God on the Petition. Now, we go back to when we had our episodes on can a criminal be a Freemason? And we actually started bringing out some of the jurisdictional differences of our individual petitions where the petitioner should usually fill out a field in the form that says that has been charged with a felony or has been charged of a crime. And after the discussion, we also noticed that each of the petitions from our respective jurisdictions has a different structure of the nature of God. And so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about that. What's the jurisdictional differences of what a supreme being is, or what's the prerequisite belief in God? And then we'll talk a little bit about is that a necessary thing? What is the whole purpose of having God and Masonry? So I'll start. For Virginia, we have a section in our laws, our Masonic laws in Virginia, that a petition for the degrees may be entertained from any person who is a freeborn man of the age of 18 years or over, of sound mind, good repute, and in such physical condition that he may substantially conform to the ritual, and who believes and trusts in God as the supreme architect and governor of the universe. So if you go look at our actual petition, so that's written into the laws. And I think we'll talk a little bit about the wording there, because me being an engineer and looking at Boolean operators, it's interesting if all of those clauses have to be true in order for someone to be a petitioner for a Masonic Lodge. Now, sharing my screen, we also have on the bottom of the first page of our petition, this is the petition for the degrees in Freemasonry in Virginia, and at the bottom, it words it slightly different, that, having resided in Virginia for the past 12 months, I hereby state that I believe and trust in God as the supreme architect and governor of the universe, and that having been born as a male, as a child,
And continued as a male.
And continued as a man, but also as a child of God too. Yada, yada, yada. It goes on. So the wording's unique. I'm going to hand it off to another jurisdiction to at least share what they have to say, and then we'll break it down. So who do we have next? According to my show notes, I can go right into Nick's. Nick was kind enough to send us the petition for the degrees for Freemasonry in Minnesota. Let me see if I can share my screen again, and there they are in a big blue form. And let's see, where does it have the statement of faith? Do you have a sincere belief and trust in God? Yes, no.
Do you like me? Check the box. Yes or no.
Yes, no, maybe. That's as simple as it gets right there. Do you have a sincere belief and trust in God? Interesting. Mike, the intern, want to share yours? Make sure you unmute yourself first.
I will also share my screen here because I have it. Let's see here. And let's see, go with that, share screen. And right in the top is the petitioner. The petition of the subscriber respectfully showeth that he has long entertained a favorable opinion of Freemasonry, or the ancient institution. I can't read the whole thing because I got stuff covered, but that you have a belief in the existence and perfection of God is the very last line.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
That's a very unique way to ask it. It's a double.
yeah.
It's a double. What'd you call that? Assertion.
Yes. Yeah. Because you have to believe that he's perfect and that he exists.
Yes. So there you go. There's another example that I want to get to. Juan, you want to talk about Florida?
Okay. I have 3 areas in which I found a little bit of information. And let me see if I can share some with you. Here we go. This is, can you see my screen?
Yes.
This is the petition for the degrees in Freemasonry. If you notice something interesting here, it has the usual wording, this day to the masters and wardens of members of blank lodge, blah, 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 blah. And it has a little verbiage. But the first question of the petition is, do you believe in the existence of one ever living and true God? That's it. Before they ask for your name, the first question is, do you believe in the existence of one ever living and true God? And I make emphasis in one because for those of you who have listened to TMR in the past and are familiar with some of the discussions we've had, we had the instance in which Florida, brothers who belonged to members of the fraternity who belonged to religions that believed in more than one God faced a little bit of a difficulty several years back.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I wanted to show, there's a supplementary form that you submit in addition to your petition. And in this one, they ask for your name first, ask for a couple of things, where you're from, where you're born. But there's a very peculiar question here as well. Are you a member of a church? Do you attend regularly? And then, do you believe
That's interesting.
in the supreme being? I suspect that this part here has something to do with restrictions that may be imposed upon a membership into the fraternity by religions. So that's my suspicion, but I can't tell you for sure. And lastly, I want to show you, if I can click this without ending the meeting, within the digest itself, some of the regulations here regarding religious belief. And I'll read. The most worshipful Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons of Florida hereby recognizes as being landmarks of Freemasonry the following. A belief in the existence of one ever-living and true God. B, a belief in the immortality of the human soul and a resurrection thereof to a future life. And this one is going to be nice. That 31.16 says, believe in God is the only religious prerequisite of a candidate for initiation into Masonry, but a Mason is bound by his tenure to obey the moral law.
As a true Noahide.
So
that was ripped straight from Anderson's Constitutions.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. Word for word.
Now check this out, though. 31.17. Since communism does not have faith in deity and is contrary to all the principles and purposes of Freemasonry, it is unlawful for any lodge in this grand jurisdiction to accept the petition for or confer any of the degrees of Freemasonry upon a communist or upon anyone actively supporting the purposes thereof.
Wait, how does a political leaning inherently not have, or how does a political leaning inherently be, atheistic?
Well, because it doesn't believe in deity. It says
But they're two separate things.
Oh, but it says
Neither of
right
which you
there.
should be talking about within the doors of a closed lodge.
So, I mean, I have to assume this is due to its proximity to Cuba.
And
Or maybe the Soviet Union back when
Jason, I
this
find
was
your
last
defense
updated.
of the commies reprehensible.
So I have to agree with John. Cuba was like buddies, right? I mean, this was the whole issue with Cuba and the Soviet Union. And I think that's probably a pretty legit argument that might be why that's in Florida's
Could be.
bylaw.
But we'll have to- I know.
Yeah, historically speaking, I could see that being true. Yeah.
We got to find out when 31.17 was added in.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up.
All right, Robert, take us home with Illinois.
Well, so Illinois is interesting. I will share this screen here with you. I've got 3 things I can show you. The first is the brand new petition, which actually this isn't brand new, but this is the qualifications for membership. And it just says, if you desire to join, you should know that membership in a Masonic Lodge is open to men who meet a few important qualifications. Illinois resident, male at least 18 years old, has a belief in a supreme being, lives a good moral and social life, can read and write English, and is recommended by 3 members of a Grand Lodge of Illinois. So basically, that's it on this petition. Then we have the one that we can print off right off of our, through Maury, actually. And that is this one. And this petition for degrees, it says, I, John Paul Jones, being the full age of 18 years, do acknowledge my belief in God and do declare that I'm biased by improper solicitation and uninfluenced by mercenary or other unworthy motives, yada, yada, yada. So that's pretty much it. We do have one other piece, which is in our constitutions and bylaws. And that one, I'd pull it up in screen share, but really it just says, Code 279 says, every candidate applying for the degrees in Masonry must be a believer in God and capable of reading and writing in English. That's the entire portion of it. On the Illinois Grand Lodge's website, it does have just a quick blurb as well. And it's under part 18 under, frequently asked questions, is Masonry a religion? And it just says, nope. But Masonry is open to all men who believe in a supreme being. Because of the necessity to take oaths, no atheist can become a Mason. So, I think...
Otherwise, no oath could be binding upon you.
Right, because, it's just we were just having this conversation last night at AMD. The conversation was that without the I don't, it's kind of small thinking to me, but without, people think that because I don't think I'm going to go to hell for doing whatever, my word's not worth anything. So I have to be able to believe in a being. So there has to be, retribution if I break my oath.
Yeah, I don't like that personally.
I don't either.
Guilt factor.
I really don't like the fact that we as individuals are not given the capacity or perceived as having the capacity of being true to our word or being moral individuals.
Right. Yeah. Like my word is a man.
Yeah.
There was a whole bunch of ruckus a couple of years ago from one of the branches of the military. A woman took her oath, but she didn't use the Bible. She just said, I swear, on my word. And there was a big, those articles on Yahoo and everywhere else, and it was like this big to do. And it's like, that's good enough for me. But what do I know? You know, I'm just
Let me be the devil's advocate here.
the dude.
If I have a belief in deity as a deist, therefore I don't believe in an interventionist God, then that holds no water, because there would be no repercussion for my violation of my obligation and my oath, because God wouldn't intervene.
Yes, it's a passive versus an active.
Right. So,
Well,
but
at the same time, though, that makes sense in the sense of, divine retribution and divine accountability, right? But at the same time, I feel like if you take an oath, and the idea is you should swear to something higher than yourself, right? A higher power. And I think if you look at it as swearing to a higher power above and beyond yourself, the argument of, well, does it matter if it's an interventionist God versus a non-interventionist God, doesn't necessarily matter.
right, but you'll find dudes in every lodge who will consistently basically belittle anybody who chalks it up to what you just said. Or, we have what we've had in several jurisdictions.
Those are the same guys who probably say, wait, you're not swearing on a Bible?
Right. You're going to do it on a Quran.
Get out of my lodge, my Christian lodge. Sorry, go ahead, Harbert.
No, and that's totally true. So the other thing that I have with that is the singularity issue of deity, which to me is just so weird. And I think that we've really jumped through hoops to justify that, and somehow make it okay. Like everywhere you go, the guys will say it has to be a belief in one single deity, just one God. It has to be a monotheistic. You hear this all the time. And then you join the Scottish Rite, like in the northern jurisdiction, right? There's a degree that has Indians, and he's like, well, they believe in many gods. And he's like, right, but they have one true spirit. It's like they're trying too hard,
right,
to make it work. And it's like, why don't you just give it up already?
Try to shoehorn the freedom. It's really weird.
Just give it up. You know what? If somebody believes in a higher power, leave it at that.
Done.
I don't care who it is, what it is, and how many it is.
Right. So
interestingly enough, John, back when we had our co-masonry episode with Brother Matthias and Brother Karen Kidd from the American Federation of Human Rights, they specifically commented on their belief requirements for entry, and they left it at belief in a higher power. No further information necessary. So there's a precedent for that, although not necessarily in recognized regular circles.
There was air quotes there just for anybody listening.
Air quotes. All right. So this really gets into now, if we want to give the most flexibility in legal terms to the person's own faith, right? To have whatever it is their divine spirit that's above them, that's a higher power. I'm going back now and looking at some of the words that are qualifiers. So, I'm not a lawyer, but if you really look at it from pure Boolean logic, and you look at all the ands or ors that's required in these petitions, there's a lot of presuppositions that may be enhancing over what the general consensus of, just do you believe in something bigger than yourself? So, for example, here in Virginia, who believes and trusts in God as the supreme architect and governor of the universe. So just breaking that simple thing down. So you have to both believe in something and trust in something. Both of those conditions have to be true. And if you're a deist, you could believe in supreme architect, but maybe not governor, right? Because architect could be the creator. A governor implies active manipulation. Also, on the petition in Virginia, I hereby state that I believe and trust in God as the supreme architect and governor of the universe. And that's all it says on the petition. And that I'm born as a child of God, whatever that means. In Minnesota,
We're all demigods.
there you go. As a child of God, a demigod. In Minnesota, do you have a sincere belief and trust in God? Very similar to Virginia. Florida, as Juan noted, the existence of one ever living and true God. So there's the three conditions in one statement, and the resurrection of a future life. And so, really, you're adding more qualifiers that are beyond Anderson's constitutions, that are beyond the intent, right? Now we're getting into new language being caked on, which if someone is really trying to be introspective about themselves and their faith, that could be a showstopper for someone who's like, I don't know if I believe in the resurrection life. I don't know if I believe in, the governor. As an architect, yes. As a governor, no. And then in Ohio, do you believe in the existence and perfection of God? So what if your vision of deity is one of a creator who exists but maybe is imperfect? Right? That's that could be why do infants die, right? Why do we have war, right? If God's perfect, why does he let bad things happen? So maybe you don't believe in the perfection of God, but you do believe in God. That's a qualifier. Mike, you were going to say something?
I was also thinking one thing that we haven't even touched on is the specification of God.
Defining God.
Yes.
Period.
I mean, just giving him the name. That ties to, in many ways, to specific religions. Also,
Yep.
So my point, just to wrap a bow up on my piece, is when people write these petitions or write these things, they're adding additional qualifiers that just complicate things even more. Juan?
And what I was going to say, all they do is insert dogma into something that should be free of dogma. And I'll speak about mine in particular. That section B that says, "I believe in the immortality of the human soul and a resurrection thereof to a future life." That's a mouthful and a brainful if you think about it. But it's followed immediately by believe in God is the only religious prerequisite of a candidate for initiation into Masonry. Obviously, that second point was written after it's the one that follows. So you have a lot of contributors here, and to me, it seems evident that it is related to dogma. And I truly believe that Freemasonry should be free and absolutely free from dogma.
I would say absolutely free from dogma outside of the dogmatic assumptions present in the ritual of the Blue Lodge degrees. So there are two major dogmatic assumptions that we all see in the degrees. The first is God is the architect of the universe. So God created what we know today. The second is the immortality of the soul. And those are the only two dogmatic assumptions I've been able to find within the ritual of the Blue Lodge. And I think, anything else outside of that is something that falls into the bucket of personal theology, and thus is outside of the realm of the fraternity.
I mean, to a point, though. I mean, there's the whole idea that, right, there's the freedom of religion, the freedom from religion. And anytime that we go into a Masonic lodge, and I know it's just one of these things, people look for things to get mad about. And if you're in the middle of a degree and a chaplain is reading a passage right from the Bible, regardless if it's Old Testament or not, if he's not into that, I mean, that's dogma in their eyes, right? Anything we do, every piece of that ritual, I mean, every password, every whatever, it's like, it's all there. And it's all stems from like this root source book. And that's its injection into the fraternity. I mean, on the altar used to be, the Constitution or the minute book. It wasn't the holy book. You want to look at operative time, and this is an injection. Duke of Sussex, I've talked about it before. He removed, or he tried to remove, all the dogmatic things from the fraternity. There is no mention of any specific religion within the craft. And then, of course, it took, I think it's 10, 15
They got
years.
most of them out.
Yeah, it took like 10 to 15 years before anybody even took it seriously.
Now, there's a thing to what happens within the degrees. It's almost it's an allegorical tool. The difference is that here within the petition, it's a requirement. You must believe this. In order to move along, you have to believe in these prerequisites. Otherwise, you get nothing. So, I could make peace with allegorical utilizing, people are writing from their own point of view. So if they're a Christian, they're going to be writing their morality tales that they find within the Bible. So that's fine, but they're not forcing people to believe that, anything that we see in the degrees. You don't have to believe it. We just expect that you understood the lessons and apply them to your life. But the petition draws the line where it says, no, you have to believe in this or you're out.
Yeah, and so those qualifiers John was talking about, to me, it's almost like, all right, guys, we have to let anybody in who believes in supreme being. What can we stick in there, though, that, it's kind of vague and maybe just cleans house a little bit so that we can make sure we're just getting Christians? Because I don't want to deal with anybody else.
Yeah. And it has to be King James version of the Bible. And, Now, I will say, I don't know if I was going to say this for final thoughts, but without getting into too much detail, there are other degrees that you can be invited to or join that do have a prerequisite of things. And, of course, there's the obvious one of the Knights Templar. We've talked about them having a Christian component to it, and that also depends on how, how your commandery runs and that kind of thing as well. But there are other degrees that are a little bit more explicit about their faith, and I'll leave it at that. So,
But they're not foundational to the craft.
correct, yeah.
I see masonry kind of as a buffet where,
Or as
Blue
Robert
Lodge
says,
is
you're
your
waiting.
plate, and then everything else, you pile on as you see fit, which is why all Masons are fat.
Good stuff. Jason, you want to bring up the DC petition you found?
Yes. So was looking all over for a petition from DC, and I found one from Hiram Tacoma, number 10. And interestingly enough, throughout their petition, they don't actually ask the candidate to affirm a belief in God. However, there's an authorized statement by the Grand Lodge, which states that, let's see, here we go. The permanent, unchanging basic principle to which you must unreservedly subscribe and which you must maintain is the existence of God. Freemasonry has, for its foundation, the great basic principles of the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. Therefore, no atheist can be a Freemason. It strives to teach a man the duty he owes to God, to his neighbor, and to himself. It inculcates the practice of every virtue and makes an extensive use of symbolism in its teaching. It interferes neither with religion nor politics, and there is absolute elimination of any arguments or contention in connection with either. So this is just the statement from the Grand Lodge that essentially each candidate or each petitioner has to say, I agree with this statement, or affirm it in some way before they actually submit their petition. So I think that's an interesting way about going about it.
Okay. So in the interest of time, we've had a couple folks comment on the Facebook page sections of their state. So I wanted to give Jason a chance to get to those so we can read a few of theirs as well. This is really fascinating.
Yes, I was not ready for social media.
Get with it.
I'm working on it.
First, no bow tie.
I have been working on it in the meantime. We did get a question from Taylor Clinic. It says, so I just got a call about Freemasonry and Scientology. Do you guys think Scientologists would be an acceptable Mason? Would they qualify with the questions about their belief in deity?
No. Zeno is not the one true God.
Are you sure though? Because it's not. It's not your religion.
Scientology is not a religion.
So I don't know enough about the religion of Scientology to be able to make a judgment either way on that.
Scientology has just as much credibility as any other religion.
They still get tax exempt status. If you're interested, right now on Reddit, Leah Remini is doing an AMA on her leaving Scientology.
Who is?
Leah Remini from what's that? She played the
person
daughter in Saved by the Bell when they went to the beach, and she played alongside Kevin something, Doug and Carey on that show where he was a UPS guy. I don't know.
Wow, she's super famous.
You know who I'm talking about.
So getting back to God on the Petition,
What else we have?
we have a really interesting piece of information from Brother Chris Streeper down in Texas, who says question number 30 on the Texas petition deals with the
30?
issue of belief. Yeah, question number 30 deals with the issue of belief in a supreme being, although the wording is nondescript enough to not overtly imply a specific religious affiliation. It certainly alludes to one. And here's the question. Number 30, do you seriously declare upon your honor that you firmly believe in the existence of God, the immortality of the soul, and the divine authenticity of the Holy Scripture?
That's pretty specific.
So any of us who might believe the Bible is allegorical instead of
Authentic
literal.
allegory.
All right. Now that we got that out of the air, who just said yes to all this stuff because they wanted to join? All right. You don't have to answer.
I didn't have 30 questions, so I didn't have to worry.
30 questions. Holy cow. So that's it. There's another one that I have it somewhere. It's Tennessee's, and that one's pretty much the same thing too. There's questions like, do you go to church? Do you believe in the public school system?
Do you like dudes?
That's one on there now, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, so Illinois, we have 3 standard questions, which is felony, belief in God, can you afford it? Oh, and we have to tell you that it's not a benefit society. So really, that's it.
So moving on to Korea.
What?
Brother Roger Haynes, who is out in Korea, says the lodges here in Korea, which are under Scotland's jurisdictions, simply follow the questions laid out in the Constitution, the first of which being, do you believe in a supreme being? It doesn't inquire anything further on the subject, although the candidate's beliefs usually come out during the committee of inquiry. Ooh, I love that wording. Regardless, since one of the required questions is, do you accept an obligation on Holy Writ binding? We then ask them what VSL they want to take their obligation on. If they revere the Bible enough, they can accept it as their VSL, regardless of whether or not they are Christians themselves. Interesting.
This is the one you want, right? This one? This is the one you want? This one? You got no choice.
Choice.
Well, no,
Look at one as long as it's this one.
well, no. I mean, the thing there is, they're like, if someone is perhaps more deist in their leanings and are like, yeah, I respect the Bible for its insight and its history, and I really regard it highly, although it's not necessarily the object of my faith. They're allowing folks to have the flexibility to use that as their VSL, even if they don't ascribe to its tenets.
it's really kind of funny that way too, because it's like the same thing, right? How many of you all just said yes so you could join? And it's like, how many of you all just said, yeah, okay, I'll take it on that book? He's like, I really don't care what book it is. You know, it's it's so bizarre to me. Like, if I had had a choice, if my lodge had asked me, what book would you want? I would have been like,
Well, and so
months.
well, part of my research for the PA Academy of Masonic Knowledge, I was trying to do a little bit of future casting too. And if you look at millennials now, when they're asked, "Do you believe that there is the absolute existence of a God?" only 50% say that yes, they believe that there absolutely is a God. So where it used to be up in the 80%, a couple generations back. So there's a decline in assuredness of a supreme being. And if you take just rough numbers, right, half of millennials are male, half are female, and then half of those are going to say they believe in God. Now you only have a quarter of the eligible population,
right,
to even choose from if prerequisite is the belief in supreme being. So I'll get to Justin Miller's question, and that'll be our last one, and then we'll get into final thoughts. Justin Miller asks on Facebook, or he states, in the Grand Lodge of Mississippi, his home state but not his home jurisdiction, their petition has 3 questions. Do you believe in a supreme being? Do you believe in the immortality of the soul? Do you believe in the resurrection of the body? All 3 of which would need to be answered in the affirmative.
Of the body.
The body.
So like the rapture.
Zombies are real, man.
Doesn't say which body.
Oh, that's true.
Man.
I mean,
I swear, we
justification though. That's you going, how can we interpret this to let anybody in? I mean, those statements are made, those questions are put forth not for you and I to dodge around them and see how we can do this. Those are ambiguous enough, but direct enough to pull just certain people in.
Yep. There you go. So with that, let's move to shameless plugs and final thoughts, and we'll start with Mike the intern. Yay.
So, yeah, my lodge actually gave a Deus the Jefferson Bible, just to, throw that back there, which I found interesting because, the Jefferson Bible has very Christian leanings, and Deist is not following that path, really. But in any case, I actually found another one of our petition forms, and the actual petition still states the same things, but it's a pamphlet, which then covers that you must have a belief in a supreme being. I mean, it's very simple there, but then when you get right to the petition, they're very specific about that existence and perfection. And back to the word God, it doesn't bother me, but I can see the question being out there, why so specific even there? So
there you go. Thanks for joining us, Mike. It's been a
thank you.
Let's go to Juan Sepulveda.
Well, I've really enjoyed this discussion. One thing that it motivates me to go out and look for more information. I want to find out more about the order in which some of these questions made it into the petition and into our digest here in Florida. I know that I've been in a room with brothers that are very passionate about the fact that the Bible should be the one and only book there. Therefore, in their views, the only true God that anybody should profess to should be the one pertaining to that book. And their passions have been have needed to be admonished, to say the least. Because you still see that. You see people that don't have a tolerance for other people's beliefs. And I would be very saddened to see if any more dogma would creep into the fraternity. I think that there has to be a general spiritual component to the petition part, and then the rest is just allegorical teachings. So, but I'm interested in knowing more about how it got to where it is and what direction it's moving towards. Thank you all for watching and for listening. If you haven't shared this with your brothers, please do so. Let them know to go to the Masonic Roundtable. And we have a vast collection of videos and audio that will help you in your journey in Masonry. So please do us a favor. Pick one or two brothers that perhaps don't know about us, and let them know so that they can also have something, some interesting discussions to participate in on a weekly basis. And brothers, I invite you to go to the Wendy Stairs as well. I have a very small but well thought out collection of episodes, and there will be some more in the future. As I said before, I'm not going to promise you when they're coming because I just have to do some triage in my life. But I invite you to go to thewindingstairs.com, and I'll see you there, brothers.
Awesome. Thank you, Juan. Robert Johnson.
Well, found Juan's comments really interesting. Just yesterday, I was on a Facebook conversation with a bunch of Masons, and a guy said if somebody put a Quran on the altar, he would quietly get up and leave the room. The comments were then deleted by the Facebook administrators because this was considered, it's un-Masonic. But what I find interesting is one of the things that the secretary asks us here in Illinois before we take our degrees is, do you sincerely submit that you are not a member of any organization which is in conflict with the Masonic fraternity? And by definition, or I shouldn't say by definition, but if you think about that, the fact that you're going to get up and leave lodge if a Quran is put there says that you are a member of an organization that has a conflict with Masonry.
But Masonry is a Christian organization anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, right. I forgot.
Yeah.
So
these are the arguments you get into with people on the interwebs.
It's true, man. It is such a tangled web, and it's insane. So thank God for good admins. But something to think about, guys, and I really hope that I didn't say anything, to upset anybody. Sometimes I can. But I just hope that belief in the supreme being or, supreme power, I think would be a better term in my own view. Because as we move forward and as science and technology move forward and the line between science and spirituality gets further blurred, I think we need to be more open with our definition of deity. And I think all that's going to do is bring more men or open it up for good men who have a belief. It's just maybe not that specific that we're requiring at this point, to come in and join and be a part of this great organization that we have. And we got to make it better. It has to keep getting better. Otherwise, it's going to go away. And we're only going to have to look at ourselves and the way we ran things in the past. So, thanks for watching. Sorry about our technical difficulties. Hope this video is amazing for you all. And we'll talk to you next week. Thanks.
Thanks, Robert. Jason Richards.
All right. It's a really interesting topic. Really interesting to see how each governing body or governing jurisdiction treats the morality and deity belief requirement differently. We're treading awfully close to a discussion on Masonic morality, which is probably going to be another topic we're going to have to address. And the fact that, okay, how do you, if you ascribe to the idea that morality is inherently steeped in religious absolutes. And there are some philosophical debates there. Then how do you have a non-sectarian religious fraternal organization? Can you have a non-sectarian religious fraternal organization? And that's not something I'm going to try to answer in my 2-minute final thought. Now, the fact of the matter is, one of the things that drew me to Freemasonry as a fraternity was its tolerance, was its acceptance of multiple points of view and multiple walks of life. And I think if we lose that, then the fraternity, it will be a hindrance to the fraternity in the long run. So I would just encourage everyone to say, you know what, look, we can celebrate our shared belief in God, but we can also celebrate our different walks of life and our different religious beliefs, even when they don't line up. And that's something that I think is critical to the continued success of the fraternity and continued existence of the fraternity past 2040, when the fraternity is going to die, according to John's data.
Hey, the data don't lie.
The data don't lie. However, past performance is not inherently indicative of future performance.
Except when it is.
Except when it is. Well, you know what? We'll check back in 2040, and
I hope I'm
see what
right.
happens.
Yep.
Huh?
I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. So, hey, everybody, looking forward to seeing some of you, especially you, Mike. Mike's coming down for the installation. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for putting up with me plugging the hell out of it. Really exciting, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. So that's all I've got. John, back to you.
Cool. Well, hopefully you only become master once. So I can't say that for everybody. Just my final thoughts on the subject. Great conversation. I learned a lot tonight, but it all comes back to landmarks, right? We got to go back to the landmarks.
Which are you doing?
They're made up. They're made up, right? So I was trying to go back quickly and look at the first codification, which was Mackey doing his landmarks in 1800s, and the only one about that was landmark 19, a belief in the existence of God. That's the first time that landmark had been written down. So there it is. That's simple, according to Mackey, and then we've just complicated it ever since. But very cool, and enjoyed the conversation. That's all I got. Thanks very much for watching. I keep searching for more light. Have a good night.